Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me be part of your day today. Andy agreed to click through for me.
Just tell me when, so I click right.
All right, you can go to the first slide. So I live and farm with my family east of here in Juniata County, and you can click again. We're a certified organic vegetable farm, and we also integrate pastured livestock. So this gives you a pretty good idea of the scope of our farm. We're surrounded on 3 sides by the Lost Creek, and we are part of a National Fish and Wildlife Federation grant to study brook trout habitat over the next 5 years. This is a really interesting grant, and it's one that I think could be replicated in other counties, because instead of sort of taking the approach of get your cows out of the stream, we're asking other farmers, do you want your grandchildren to be able to continue to fish on your farm? Because almost all the farms in our watershed are pretty close to the creek here. And so we each have stream monitors in the stream near our farms, and we're taking a look at how we can encourage the brook trout. They're quite prolific, about 10 miles away from our farm at the headwaters, to move downstream a little bit by improving the water quality. Okay, we serve about 250 families annually through our community-supported agriculture program on our farm in State College in Harrisburg, and we also sell through an organic growers cooperative that markets to Baltimore and Washington, D.C. restaurants. Okay. You can go to the next slide. So through these restaurants, we're hitting about 1,500 plates a week. You can go to the next slide. We also, sorry. So we also pasture animals. We have turkeys, chickens, pigs, and we have a lot of these lambs right now. Okay, Andy.
Is that one of your taste testers?
Yeah. So our farm mission is to connect people. You can go back. Our farm mission is to connect people to their food, the earth, and each other. And this is at one of our weekly CSA distributions. This little guy just really wanted nothing but tomatoes. We also employ about 10 people annually. And this model that I'm talking about a little bit is prolific in Indiana County as well. So here's some of our employees working on one of our high tunnels. We do a lot of season extension in order to be able to deliver early in the season and late in the season as well. So we have this focus on building community around healthy food, and this plays out in everything from orienting our farm in a way that welcomes our local community to be part of our farm life, to ensuring everyone who wants a produce share can have one regardless of their financial situation. So every time that someone purchases a share on our farm, we ask them if they would like to contribute to our community fund, and that means that anyone who wants fresh produce can have it regardless of their financial situation. As with many family farms, one of us works off farm, that's me. And so as was mentioned, I've served the last 2 years as Deputy Secretary of Agriculture for Pennsylvania. And then the job that I've wanted for a long time and opens up about once every 15 years came about, and now I'm serving as Executive Director of PASA. The mission of PASA is promoting profitable farms that produce healthy foods for all people while respecting the natural environment. So I'm going to talk a little bit on local food economies as part of that, and I'd like to put forth a premise that sourcing your food locally and supporting your local farmer is integral to sustainable communities. Okay. So obviously this topic is more an evolving conversation than a once and done presentation, and I would argue that the key areas of why you would want to purchase your food locally have to do with economics, quality and choice, relationships, sustainability, and integrity, but I am just going to quickly focus on the economics. Much of what I'll say today is based on the work of John Eichard, a phenomenal agricultural economist, combined with my own experiences as a farmer, an eater, and a community member. So supporting your local farmer clearly contributes to the local economy. American farmers, on average, are able to retain about 15.8 cents on the dollar. Let that sink in for just a minute. Our food system is set up in such a way that the farmer keeps almost none of the agricultural dollar. The rest goes for processing, transportation, packing, and other marketing costs. And often, those dollars are being spent outside of the local community. Farmers who sell food direct to local customers, however, receive the full value of the dollar. You can change the slide. $1 for each food dollar spent is more like half of that dollar stays with the farmer, and most of the rest of that stays with the local community. So this is a really important thing to think about when you're deciding where you purchase your food. It's not only that more of that dollar is going to the farmer, but more of it is going to your neighbors as well. Farmers who market locally get to keep half or more of each dollar because they purchase fewer commercial production inputs like packaging, and they spend less on transportation. Anyone here able to guess which state in the United States has the largest number of direct sales farms? So think about all the agricultural states, think about where we are potentially in that, and what is the #1 state in the nation for direct sales farms? It's Pennsylvania. Yeah. Now in terms of sales, California has us beat out. But as far as number of direct sales farms, we are #1 in the nation. You can go ahead and change the slide. If you want to sit for a minute and give your knees a break, I'm going to be on this slide for a little while. So each dollar spent with a local business adds to the local economy. Buying locally creates good jobs. Small local businesses are the largest employer nationally and in our community, and they provide the most jobs to our own community's residents. Buying locally is an investment in the community. Local businesses are owned by people who live in the community, are less likely to leave, and are more invested in the community's future. Buying locally puts your tax dollars to good use. Local businesses require comparatively little infrastructure investment, and they make more efficient use of public services compared to nationally owned stores that are entering the community. Buying locally supports innovation and low prices over the long term. A multitude of small businesses, each selecting products based not on a national sales plan, but on the needs of their local customers, guarantees a much broader range of product choices. Oftentimes we'll walk into the grocery store, and upon first appearance, there is a multitude of choice. But when you really look at those center aisles, it's a pretty small set of choices. They're just all branded differently, right? So when you're buying locally, particularly if you're buying from a local farmer, you may get into a lot of variety of product that takes into consideration the cultural identity of the local community, a lot of the heritage breeds that are from that community, the economic structure of that community, the likes and dislikes of the folks living in that community. So just try to think about how we're geared through commercials to think about choice as being branding as opposed to actual choice of product. Buying locally encourages local prosperity. A growing body of economic research shows that entrepreneurs and skilled workers are more likely to invest and settle in communities that preserve They're one-of-a-kind businesses and distinctive character. So there are two other subcategories that I'll add here because I think they're important to consider. Supporting your local farmer saves on transportation, but the economics of that are not quite as clear as what we initially thought. The average fresh food item travels about 1,500 miles. So think of all the fresh food products that you buy in the grocery store. On average, it's traveling 1,500 miles from its point of production. Now, there's much research to demonstrate that reducing transportation costs actually doesn't save much in terms of dollars and cents, since total transportation cost amounts to only about 4% of food costs. However, the ecological savings, and this is really important if you're looking at things like ecotourism, the ecological savings are far more significant. Energy for transportation is virtually all derived from non-renewable fossil fuels, as we know, and we require those to run our national infrastructure. But if we're looking at energy sustainability for our local communities, eliminating those long distance transportation costs and the needed infrastructure can really add to what we can offer. So a little bit about the economic impact of agriculture in Pennsylvania and in Indiana County. In Pennsylvania, 1 in 15 jobs is related to agriculture. We are, our four highest areas are dairy, chicken and eggs, cattle, and mushrooms. And if you look at organic agriculture, we're actually in the top 5 for about 20 different organic products. There are almost 60,000 farms in Pennsylvania, and about 1,200 of those are in Indiana County. In our nation, we have over 77 million acres of agriculture, and in Indiana County, that is about 155,000 acres. Indiana County's average farm size is about 132 acres, which is slightly larger than the Pennsylvania average. And the market value of products sold from Indiana County is almost, and actually this is just from the 2012 ag census, so I know this has grown considerably. So in 2012, it was almost $70 million in actual cash receipt sales on farms, which is pretty impressive. Overall in Pennsylvania, we have about $7.5 billion spent in ag cash receipts. You can go ahead and change it, thanks. So supporting your local farmer helps save farmland as well. More than 1 million acres of US farmland is lost each year to residential and commercial development. Pennsylvania is also the number one state in our country for farmland preservation. We have preserved over 600,000 acres of farmland. We have almost 6,000 farms preserved. So that's really, really important. The loss of farmland typically means that we have lost that acreage to farm production for forever. Once farmland is entered into development, it is nearly impossible to bring it back to production. You can go ahead, Andy, and click through that one. Go ahead. So probably my favorite reason for supporting your local farmer is relationships. And to some degree, is that not why you want to see your community survive and thrive? Supporting your local farmer allows people to reconnect. The national food system was built upon a foundation of economic relationships among farmers, food processors, food distributors, and consumers that is, in and of its nature, impersonal. Its economic efficiency demands that relationships among people and between people and nature be impartial and thus impersonal. So as a result, many people today, and we hear this all the time, have no idea where their food is coming from. By supporting your local farmer, people are able to reconnect with local farms. Go ahead, Andy. At farmers markets and through direct sales farms, and reconnect with the person who's growing their food, and that means more money in your local economy. So I'm happy if we are able to take any questions, or do we need to move on?
I think we can take one or two questions. Questions?
Yes.
I want to just, first of all, applaud PASA for all the work you do to encourage farmers markets and local farming. And I wanted to know if there is any quantity about the difference between organic and conventional non-organic farming at this level.
Yeah, sure. So there's not a lot of data at this point to support that the nutritional value between conventional and organic product is substantial. What you need to remember about the organic label is that it is simply a consumer assurance label of what practices are happening on the farm where it's certified organic. Where we can say there are pretty significant differences, and PASA has been conducting on-farm research for some time to study this, is that soil organic matter, which is really important for keeping our waters clean and keeping our soils healthy, tends to be about 3 times the rate on organic vegetable farms, for example, as what is expected through the NRCS rates for that soil type. Organic farmers tend to keep their soil covered about 70 days more a year than what is typical. So that's 70 days fewer a year that, soil is being eroded. So we do know that when you buy organic, what has happened is that farm has gone through an annual inspection to simply say these are the practices on that farm, and they all focus around soil health. So if soil health is really important to you, that's a label that you would certainly want to look for. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.